some quality time? Between the two of us, there won't be enough left of Spider-Man to fit in a matchbox, but we'll try, won't we?
Hey, what's up everybody? Today we're doing another animated series figure review. Now, I already did a review on the black suit out of this box set, but I did not do a review of the Carnage, and that was for a very specific reason. I was actually working on him to make him look a little bit better, and I didn't want to do two separate videos on him. But just taking a quick look at the box here, as you can tell, that's what he kind of looked like there. So you already know I had to put some work into him to make him look more accurate to the actual 90s show. But yeah, nothing much to the box, so let's take a look at him. So, without further ado, here he is, and he looks a lot more accurate. So, just going over details here, Carnage is one of my, if not my favorite Marvel villain ever. I mean, he just looks cool, he's such a cool-looking character, and my first introduction to Carnage was actually the 90s series, so I wanted to make sure that this Carnage figure portrayed him as best as I possibly could get him to look from the 90s series. I didn't do a whole lot to him, but I did do enough. Mainly, I got custom heads for him, 3, by the way, and also for the torso. I basically just completely scratched off all the paint using an acetone, and then I painted over it to make the torso a little bit more accurate. Same thing with his back, too, as well. I added little bits and parts here on the arms and the legs, but his paint job was just kind of lackluster, and there's still a lot of his original paint job still on here, because honestly I think that those parts of the paint job weren't really too bad, and they kind of matched the animation, and you know, they didn't stick out like a sore thumb like his torso did, but as you can see, some parts there I add on, like that part right there, and maybe some parts here around on the feet, just to kind of maybe just add a little bit to his arms and legs, just to kind of give him a little extra. But this version of Carnage does not have a lot of black on him. Mainly the black is used to define his muscles and parts of his legs and arms and stuff, of course. But as you can see, I completely redid the back, at least most of it there. I tried to make it match up into the part on his butt, but I did also do the shoulders there, and of course this torso, which the chest here was not easy to do. I couldn't exactly figure out how to do it as good as possible, so I left some spots open there to, you know, kind of give it a bit of a, you know, cel-shaded look, and I did do the inside parts of the butterfly joints too as well, to kind of match up with the chest, just to, you know, give it that animated 90s Carnage look. And I think it honestly came out pretty well. It looks at least a lot closer to what the animation model looked like, especially with the back here. But of course, getting up on this custom head here that I painted up, I think I did a pretty good job on it. I will go over the heads in a lot more detail when I do the accessory segment, but I'm happy the way it turned out. Now I want to, you know, kind of show what the figure kind of looked like. I do have the original head it did come with. If I don't drop it, I have a bad habit of dropping figures on this channel. My bad. But I do have the original head on here just to kind of show you what the figure looked like. So at least with the chest there, you can kind of see what it looked like originally. And it does not look good. It's just they kind of just lazily splotched on a chest design, and there really was not a lot of like shading on the figure itself. And I did actually take inspiration for the shading from Can I Make It on YouTube. So shout out to him for this sort of chest design, at least a little bit. I kind of took my own liberties in certain areas. But as you can see, yeah, there was really not a whole lot of good, you know, at least cell shading when it came to the design that they put on the figure themselves. And, To be honest, even the hands to this figure are inaccurate, so I don't know what I'm going to do about that. But honestly, it looks a lot better now. So now that we've kind of gone over the, the details and everything, let's get into articulation. So as far as the articulation goes, I am going to keep the original head it came with on just to show you the full range of articulation, because with the custom heads, much like the lizard video, they're just pretty much, for show. They do, go with the articulation too, but I don't want to risk them just keep on popping off and whatnot during the articulation segment. So we are just going to go ahead and just use the original head it did come with. And I will go over how I don't like this head. I mean, I do like it. It's a good Carnage head, but, it's not accurate to this version. So the head can look down pretty much about that far. And, of course, going up, it can look all the way. And then as far as the tilts pretty well. Can swivel all the way around on that ball joint. And, of course, he does have butterfly joints, which is new for this type of Carnage. At least with this kind of Bucky cap mold almost. And, of course, his arms can spin all the way around. And they can go up about that far. And he does have the classic bicep swivel. Double jointed pinned elbows. Would be nice if it was pinless. But the usual swivel and hinge at the wrist with Marvel Legends figures. And he has a singular ab crunch that can go forward about that far. And can go back pretty much about that far. Does have a waist swivel that can go pretty much all the way around. His leg can kick up about that far. It can kick back, not so much. He does have some thigh swivel and double jointed pinned knees. And of course, he does have the classic calf cut. And for the foot, it can go up about that far, down about that far. And he does have ankle pivot back and forth. So he's pretty decently articulated. The usual articulation you get with most of these symbiote. I keep dropping him. But anyway, he does most of the articulation that you get with most symbiote figures. So now that we've gone over the articulation, it's about time we take a look at those accessories. So, straight out of the box, Carnage comes with this head and your classic, symbiote hands that Carnage figures like to come with all the time. These nice, kind of claw-like hands. But I actually do want to talk about this head because, oh god. I don't know who at Hasbro thought that this was the perfect head to use for a 90s Carnage. And you can just see the paint job really isn't that great. You can see that there's an obvious difference between a matte finish and a kind of a gloss finish. With the blacks, it's just not good. And this is not a 90s Carnage head. He never had this, look to him in the show at all. This is the Bagley head. This is the, Carnage from the comics head. Bad head aside, he does come with this, kind of run-of-the-mill symbiote back piece that they've been using since, the early 2000s. It's a decent little piece. I mean, it gets the job done. It's nothing really to talk about or write home about this. We've seen it before with a lot of symbiote figures, but, still, it's a really nice piece, and I really do like it. I do love the styling of the tendrils and whatnot, so yeah, it's pretty nice to have. But, which is also really nice, is he does come with the two other Carnage hand accessories that the last, more classic-looking Carnage figure did come with, which is, of course, one of them being this big claw hand with the little tendril coming off. I really do like this accessory, and I think this definitely works for this 90s Carnage, because when Carnage first appeared, he did have kind of a hand like this, sort of. And I just really do like this as a piece for Carnage figures. The hand does have paint wiped off of it because they are kind of, in progress. And the other accessory he does get is, of course, the axe. But this time, it actually has paint on it. Because the last time we saw this axe, it didn't have any paint on it at all. But it's nice to actually have some paint on it. now as well, with this very, very nice kind of almost tiger stripe look to it. But this was actually pretty accurate to, at least, well, the shape of the axe isn't that accurate because you didn't have an axe like this. It was more so like a double-sided axe, but, I mean, it's still an axe. I can't really do too much to fix that. Or maybe I can. I might do it. I'm not sure, though. But, yeah, this is a really, really, really nice thing to add to this Carnage figure, and I do much appreciate it. I might get an extra one of these axes and then try to make it a little bit more accurate to the show. But for now, this looks really, really great, and I do like it. I'm glad that they actually gave one with some actual paint on it. You could probably use it for the original, Bagley Carnage too, if you want to. But yeah, I really do like this accessory. Now let's talk about the custom heads. So as far as the custom heads go, I did get 3 of them. This is the main one I, display them with because this is the full Carnage head. I painted it up as best as I possibly could to match the colors of the actual figure itself, and I think it honestly came out pretty great. Came out a little bit better, honestly, than the lizard head did, as far as, paint matching and looking good on the figure itself, and not that the lizard head doesn't look good, it's just I feel like these look a lot better. And I did paint the inside of the mouth, and, well, more like I was actually able to paint the inside of the mouth, because it wasn't, tightly compact, but just comparing the two, there's a clear winner right here. I mean, the difference is just night and day. The custom head painted up is just a lot better looking than this just generic Carnage head that they just decided to throw on. But yeah, as you can see, it's painted up really nicely and it just looks more accurate. Now, since Carnage is my all-time favorite Marvel villain, I did have to get more heads for him. So I ended up getting this head right here too as well, and I did get these on eBay. I'm sure if you look up animated Spider-Man, or animated series Spider-Man custom heads, or 6-inch figure heads, you will come across these. But they are super, super, super nice. I love how they're casted too. They're casted in nice resin. They do look really nice. Now, I'm not the best when it comes to painting human faces, so I kind of try to do my best. This is the one that came out the best out of the 2 human faces I have for this Carnage figure. So I think it came out pretty well. It is a bit glossy because of how my paint is. I probably should have got more of a matte finish type of paint, but then again, I wouldn't have gotten a nicer spread of the paint, and it would chip a lot. But as you can see, paint up very, very nicely, at least the symbiote part here, and this was definitely a head I wanted to get for him. A nice head where the symbiote's kind of peeling back, and I'm so glad I was able to actually get a head like it, and it just looks really, really nice, and pulls off the look from the show very, very well. This is the Cletus Cassie that I definitely remember, at least, so it looks pretty good. And as far as the other head goes, it's a completely unmasked, symbiote face Cletus Cassie sculpt. Now, I will say that this head got really messed up, and I painted it pretty good at first, but then when I tried to put a top matte finish coat on it, the paint smeared everywhere, and I had to restart, and I had to keep redoing this head specifically multiple times, and unfortunately every single time I try to redo it, it just keeps coming out the same way. So this one kind of looks a little bit painted horribly. I know, I'm ripping on my own work here, but yeah, it just did not come out the best. So, bringing back in the figure here, I will show off the integration with all these accessories. So, of course, with the hands, you just kind of, just plug them in how you would usually, normally plug in Marvel Legends hands. They just go in there. It's a little bit tight on this figure, but it's better tight than very, very loose. Same thing with this other hand here, so you just kind of plug it on in right there, and there you have the hands in. And as far as the heads go, with the custom heads, I did have to basically put in my own joint system with hot glue to get them on the ball joint. But here is the one head on it that I mainly display him with. But it does look pretty good on there. But yeah, I had to do my own kind of system with the hot glue inside these heads, because unfortunately when you buy custom heads, most of the time, the most people who make these custom heads don't actually incorporate the ball joint system, so you kind of have to make your own, which, to be honest, really sucks because it puts a lot more work into it. But at least I get it done, and here is the symbiote peeled back head on. Doesn't look too bad, but of course, with the system that I have to do with hot glue, it comes off. And of course, here is the completely unmasked head sculpt. Sits a little bit high. I'm probably going to have to fix this one a little bit. But this one doesn't look too terrible. It's just, I'm never going to really use this one. I just kind of got it just to kind of have it. But putting back on the original head here, and bringing in the symbiote piece, it just really simply just plugs into the back right there, and there you go. You got the symbiote on the back, and you have them all decked out. Now let's do a pose test. So I hope you enjoyed that kind of little pose test there. But of course, let's get down into the scale before we move on to the final thoughts. Now this figure will scale, I think, pretty decently next to some of these other animated characters. So of course, here he is next to the retro carded animated style Spider-Man from the Walmart exclusive Spidey, not the original retro Spidey, which didn't look anything like the animated series. But the retro one, I think they honestly fit really well together. Judging by their size and the show itself, I think this works out quite perfectly. And of course, bringing in his 2-pack counterpart. The only 2-pack, I think... Actually, no, not the only 2-pack that I kept both figures from. But yeah, this Black Spidey is on a different body. A little bit bigger than the Walmart Spidey, which kind of sucks because it's a little inconsistent with the scaling. But I think this 2-pack was just really good. This one, the Doc Ock one, and the Green Goblin one were both some of the best retro animated 2-packs that kind of made sense, but also kind of didn't. It doesn't really make sense that both these guys were in a pack together. But I don't know, their colors just bounce off each other. There's just something about it that just looks really nice on paper. But yeah, I mean, I think they scale really well together. This Carnage scales pretty well with both these Spideys, and I guess you can kind of technically count the Black Spidey as just a bulkier looking version because he has the suit. But of course, bringing out the SDCC retro animated style Venom, I still think this Venom is a little bit too big. He might be a little bit bigger than he really should be. It should be a little bit smaller. Maybe only a little bit taller than Carnage and Spidey. But I still honestly think that this works. And this setup right here is what I wanted my entire life. I wanted a animated, kind of Venom Saga little setup because that was what I had growing up. I had the Venom Saga DVD. And of course, bringing in the black suit again there. This just looks perfect. I love this. I loved this saga so much. I love this Carnage figure so much. I love this Venom figure so much. I will do a review of him soon, I promise, but I just love this Carnage, this Spidey. This just takes me back, and I just enjoy every single moment of it. Just being able to actually have animated series figures in general, and the Venom Saga was definitely a highlight of that animated series, and I'm so glad that I'm able to actually kind of recreate some of the parts from it. Now, bringing in two other villains to compare with, of course, here's the Lizard from my last review, and here's Morbius from the review before the Lizard. yeah, I still think he scales pretty well. I'm pretty sure Morbius was supposed to be a little bit taller than, of course, Carnage and all that. That Morbius has a lot of reuse, though. But the Lizard, I think, scales pretty well. I mean, a lot of these characters didn't really share screen time with each other because it is an animated show, and a lot of what they did was they did separate stories, but I think it works out pretty well. So, as far as the final thoughts go, this figure is great. It's when you get it in the 2-pack itself, it's it's pretty bland, but just changing a few things, giving it some custom heads, really makes a difference with this figure. And I think that's what really makes this figure perfect, is because when you get it, it's like a blank canvas. But of course, with a little bit of a magic touch, you can make this figure really, really pop out. I do like the custom heads that I did get for it. But unfortunately, I can't really paint human faces well, and to be honest, I'm probably never really going to use those human faces all that much. Maybe, obviously for this review and the photos I release on my Insta afterwards, but I just thoroughly enjoy this figure a lot. It is just a classic-looking character, and it is on a, pretty familiar body for a figure. He does have some, inconsistencies outside of the box. I wouldn't say inconsistencies, more like inaccuracies, but he still does look really well next to the animated Spidey, especially with these custom heads and all. He looks really well with the animated Venom too, of course. You can get off some really nice poses like this one. But yeah, the only thing is, I don't know what their thought process was with just throwing in the Carnage head that they've been using for like almost ever now. I don't know what the thought process behind that was, because it's nothing like the animated show. I don't know what they were thinking, but still, all in all, this is a really good figure, and my apologies for, kind of splitting up this 2-pack. It's just, I wouldn't want to review a figure that I had plans to customize, because I would have wanted to show you guys the full end result and do a, much needed full review on it. But, yeah, I loved this box set, and just making this Carnage come to life in a more accurate look was just so great. But that's pretty much the end of this review. I'll be sure to catch you in the next one. Just make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.